welcome back to another episode of the Globe interview series. With me today in Barcelona, I have Aaron Wilson and Sherrard Harrington from EonXI. Hi, guys.
Hey, Sunlight. Thanks for having us.
A pleasure, honestly. To jump right into it, can you tell me a bit about, you guys' background and how you kind of went on your crypto journey?
For sure. Do you want to kick it off?
Yeah, so I guess my journey started, I went to the University of Colorado. That's where I played football, had a career-ending injury. And that sort of led me into entrepreneurship. I was fortunate to be in Boulder, Colorado, where it was a bunch of blockchain innovation happening. We had companies like Techstars being built right into Boulder. And from there, I just established my network, built my connections. And this thing called blockchain, Bitcoin was the main thing around campus. And at the time, I didn't know anything about it. And I had a bunch of engineer friends that were playing around with Bitcoin, making transactions. I think during that time, that's when literally it started to come in that I was passionate about this space. I say fast forward in that, I graduated school. I sold my company, and that's where a lot of my friends, professional athletes, were like, "Hey, what's this thing about crypto? I want to know more about this." And that's when we just started to build that infrastructure, start reaching out to a lot of founders within the space, and started building our network. From there, partnered up with Aaron, knew that we wanted to go full force into the space. Fortunately, with some of those connections that we established early on, we made strategic investments into those companies, Dapper Labs being one of them, a company by the name of Rose, Social Money being another one. And from there, started to establish more and more network camaraderie in the space. And yeah, the rest was history. But Aaron, I'd love for you to maybe go deeper dive into it.
For sure. So a little bit about me, from New York originally, Big Apple. Started out my career in finance, JP Morgan, transitioned out of JP after a few years, got into recruitment and human capital consulting, worked at a few large firms, and eventually, just that kind of, I guess, reaffirmed the interest that I had in the hypergrowth startup space, working with companies that were growing very quickly and being able to make an impact there. So from there, wanted to make that transition into the private equity and technology space. So Sherrard and I, brought everything to fruition with EonXI, and the rest was history. I think it's important to note, because a lot of people ask us, how do you pronounce the name of your company?
Yeah, myself included.
All right. No, it's fine. It's cool, so, right?
It's fine. So it's EonXI. Eon represents a billion ideas. X represents the problem that we're solving. And I represents inclusivity and innovation via interoperability. And of course, with our primary focus being on the Web3 sector, and interoperability being that underlying philosophy of Web3. So yeah, and we take a bifurcated approach to the space. So that's by way of our venture fund and also our incubation lab.
Okay, so you were saying about your venture fund and your incubation. Could you tell me a bit more about each of those avenues and what you guys actually do at EonXI?
Absolutely. So from our venture fund, we are early stage investors. So in addition to Web3, we do have some focus. And of course, there's some kind of cross-functional relevance between the Web3 space and gaming. So Web3, gaming, and entertainment. And we're really not passive investors. Sherrard will tell you, he'll second that sentiment. We're strategic and active investors. So when we get involved with a company, we get our hands dirty. We're not just deploying capital, right? We have experience with executive search, with talent, identifying the right individuals on a team from operational to the development side, etc. But I know there might be a few little gaps that I might have left there. Sherrard, do you want to add some depth to that?
Yeah, and things that we don't know, or things that we do have expertise in. We reach out to enterprise organizations and other startup organizations, and we co-create products with them. So that's a lot of where we get our hands dirty, and we're not just throwing checks. That's the biggest thing. Yeah.
So I can tell you guys have great energy together and you kind of like bounce off each other. So can you tell me a bit about what your roles are and how you guys work together as a team.
Yep. So we both lead the company. I founded the company, but someone like Aaron, highly coveted in the space, bunch of people within the region of New York kept telling me, hey, you need a partner in crime to go with you on this. And no one I could think of better than Aaron, just even with his recruiting background and him taking companies from growth, early stage to growth stage. It's tremendous. And in addition to that, both of us being African Americans, coming from inner city communities, we really understand each other from that perspective. So it's been amazing just working with Aaron. And Aaron, maybe you can speak out our relationship.
For sure. So, I mean, one of the key things in business that a lot of people fail to understand and fail to comprehend very early on is that anyone who's extremely smart can build a world-class product. But not just anyone can actually build a world-class company. It's the people first. So identifying strategic alignment, much to the point that you just mentioned with the synergies and the chemistry between Sherrard and myself, is extremely important when you're playing the long game, right? This is beyond just development. This is beyond just the product. This is about being able to build something that could be sustainable and scalable and making an impact in the right way.
Agreed.
So that's really our approach, ensuring that there's that soft skill alignment so that the hard skills are something that's quite simple. And it just comes down to identifying the right people. So at the end of the day, we're in the people business beyond what anyone may think. And that's truly how you successfully scale and build.
So let's talk about the personal side of business. So you've said that diversity, equity, and inclusion are really important things to EonXI.
Correct.
So can you tell me a bit more about this?
Absolutely. I mean, it's super interesting because when you think about what's been happening in more recent times as it pertains to Web3, blockchain, and the distributed ledger, what it's doing is it's breaking down socioeconomic barriers that have plagued our society for so long, right? When you think about our incubation lab, one of the big ideas that we have for EonXI Labs is that we're creating a safe space for developers and builders and operators from all walks of life to be able to co-create and build together. In our society, there's this divisiveness that's been kind of haunting us and hanging over our heads for so long, where people who aren't of the same ethnicity, creed, gender, sex, religion have been put in situations where they're not working together cooperatively. So we see our incubation lab as a bigger play, right, for society at large, a social play, where people who are from all walks of life will have an opportunity to be able to develop disruptive concepts that solve some of the biggest problems that we're facing in society. Furthermore, when you think about it, due to the prominence of open source technology and the accessibility of open source technology, what's happening now is there's a whole new wave of smart contract developers and builders within the blockchain space, right? If you look at some of the data, over 34,000 developers committed code in 2021, which is insane. And that speaks volumes of what's happening in the space and the fact that it's not just someone who's a traditional builder or developer who has a traditional technical or computer science or software engineering background is the only person who can actually get their hands dirty. Now, people who have non-traditional backgrounds, people who may not necessarily have been afforded access to emerging technology, who are coming from the inner city or coming from a group of individuals where they were typically deemed the disenfranchised, are now being given these opportunities. So our goal is to operate as that playing field leveling mechanism to bridge that gap. And really, what we're super adamant about is identifying the right people, right? The right builders, the right developers, the right enterprises, the right strategic partners and investors who are interested in joining us in doing this as well. And Sherrard, I know you have your thoughts as well. We talk about this all the time. So yeah.
Yeah, and Aaron did a magnificent job of outlining the incubation lab and how we're building this ecosystem of developers. The next phase of that is sort of, well, I wouldn't say phase, but the other side of things is we have the venture arm. So once we identified these key individuals, people that we built from the ground up, we can deploy capital into them. And not just from the internal ecosystem that we built, but even from an external standpoint. We're helping LPs in the space learn about the space. We're helping the new people that aren't traditionally in the space that may be investors, let's say athlete influencers. We're helping guide them and be more educated on making decisions on, I wouldn't say, we're not making them invest, but more educating them and making sure that they're evaluating these deals more. So we take, as Aaron mentioned, this dual approach to helping companies, and yeah, that's the focus for us.
And I think it's super important to note, in particular, when it comes to the venture fund, right? We are early stage investors. Now, this is an art. This is an art indeed. Primarily because early stage investing is not going to be strictly contingent upon a robust track record that company has or that concept has. Why? Because it's early stage. If you're pre-seed or seed, you probably don't even have just an abundance of data to show that you guys have been producing X amount of revenue over years. It doesn't make sense. You wouldn't be pre-seed or seed stage. However, there are certain investors who would like to get involved because they'd love to see that upside. They want to see what we call in the space hockey sticks. However, if you do not understand how to put your finger on the pulse of what's happening in the industry and what's going to happen next, and aligning that with a corresponding vision that a founder or a founding team has, then you're not right for early stage investing. Right, and you should be focused more so on Series B or Series C investments, where there's an opportunity for you to look at financials and see this robust. Exactly. It just doesn't align. So we take pride in understanding what direction the space is going in and who the true visionaries are, and being able to assist them with accomplishing their goals, not only with capital resources, but also from a strategic and advising capacity. So just something to keep in mind with regard to what we're doing on the venture fund side, as Sherrard had mentioned.
Okay, yeah, you really don't just throw your money at things, do you?
You don't. You have to truly see. The issue is people have put soft skill assessments on the back burner because they themselves don't have any soft skills to evaluate the soft skills of others. And that's where the whole people component comes into play, and the executive search and the recruitment component, and being able to see potential, right? And understand that moment of self-actualization for a founder, right? We're assisting with building the next generation of leaders.
Thank you. Yeah, that's very aspirational, I think. Yeah. So what are your thoughts on the world of gaming and esports?
Sure.
Yeah, well, it's we seen a lot with COVID-19 and how that impacted the space. But it's 3 billion gamers in the world. It's only 7 billion people in the world. So that tells you right there that the gaming industry is here to stay and is only going to grow from there. But far as our beliefs on the gaming space, Aaron and myself, we grew up as gamers. Playing all of the normal games, NBA, Madden, Grand Theft Auto, those type of video games. And what we're seeing with the metaverse, it's just basically the world that we've been living in when we were growing up. And now we're making it more accessible to everyone in the world. There's these 7 billion people that we mentioned. The esports element, we look at that as just creating as Aaron mentioned, leveling the playing field. It's another avenue for people who do not have traditional, let's say, athletic backgrounds or super athletic. They don't have to be in the NFL. Yeah. You don't have to be in the NFL or the NBA. The gaming space can be your new avenue. And I know Aaron can maybe even talk about some of the things that we're doing on the esports or Steam.
For sure. So we actually, from our venture fund, invested in a company by the name of State Space. and their flagship product is AIM Lab.
So that product is assisting gamers with, I guess, when you're playing a first-person shooter game, it assists with, aiming better, etc. It's leveraging neuroscience data and analytics in order to assist with becoming a better gamer. Founded by Wayne Mackey. Shout out to Wayne. So StateSpace is a company that we'd invested in, but we also in recent times actually partnered with them to create a fully academically integrated esports league, the WGGL, the Worldwide Good Game League. Now, what's pretty interesting about the WGGL is that our approach is that we have this thesis that if you were to introduce emerging technology to the youth in inner city communities, that this could be a playing field leveling mechanism. Again, that's one of our primary focuses, right? And the reason why esports is so important is because it's a segue and it operates as kind of a foundation to leverage gaming as a conduit to introduce STEM and STEAM-oriented coursework, right? When you introduce STEM and STEAM to the youth, they're now positioned as early adopters of this kind of technology. And they're now being given a platform that carves out paths toward more technical roles. They could now start looking into computer science earlier than they typically would, software development, engineering, animation, product design, all of these cool, or statistical analysis and things of that nature that are all involved in competitive gaming and esports. So that's something that we're doing. We're making a super concerted effort in doing that. We have our early innovators school by the name of the Utopian Academy in Clayton County in Georgia. And they've been great thus far. Shout out to Dr. Miller. And it's just been wonderful, and it's great to be able to see the reaction on these students' faces when they're being given an opportunity to do something that they in any other circumstance would not have had an opportunity to do.
Yeah, that's amazing. So like kind of to go back to inclusivity, right? It's so nice to see you actually follow on from your promises.
1,000%.
When you think about it, and Sherrard and I, we talk about this a lot, so it's like me beating a dead horse to some extent, but if you take a child from the inner city and you take a child who's from a more affluent and wealthy background, and you put both of them in a classroom separately, and you teach both of them, one thing remains consistent across the board. They're both going to learn.
Mm-hmm.
So if we can provide the tools and the resources on a regular basis and the infrastructure and implement that into academia, we're affording opportunities.
Agree. And so like just going on my background, I didn't receive a computer until I went to college. And I had to sell my first car in order to get that first computer to go to college. So that tell you growing up.
Yeah, I'm sorry. How much were computers back then?
I think it's
like $1,000.
$1,000, and that was a lot of money for my family, especially growing up in my community and things like that. So these kids, as Aaron mentioned, Utopian gave them state-of-the-art equipment, making sure that they have all the resources, top tier equipment, make sure that they have all the resources to help them thrive in this new age. So no limitations.
Yep. And it's interesting because we're living in a time where we're seeing the youth do things that, quite frankly, I could never have imagined doing when I was, their age, right? You have 11-year-olds and 12-year-olds starting businesses, right? They're coding, they're developing, they're programming. Even when we were at Utopian, they had animation classes, and these kids, they're coming up with different concepts and they're putting it together themselves.
They're hireable right now.
Exactly. And you ask them, how long did it take you to do this? About a week. How much did you work on this? A little bit when I came to class. How about at home? No.
Yeah.
So
it's amazing.
It's So it shows that once opportunity is being given and the right guidance and the push is there, again, people.
Right? We're in the people business, right? You're truly able to make an impact. And it's just so important. I mean, for us to find the right people to join us on the journey. Like, so, yeah.
Yeah. And you're kind of building the new generation almost, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say with the help of others as well.
Yeah. We can't do it alone. We have so many
absolutely.
great strategic partners and relationships that are assisting us in bringing our vision to fruition. So,
And still looking to add more people into that vision as well.
Okay. Yeah. Say that into the camera.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we'll tell you this much. If you are a talented developer, if you are an enterprise, if you're a leader, and if you're an investor, and you'd like to make an impact and do it in the right way, a meaningful way, with the right people, we'd like to speak to you.
Come to EonXI.
Let's talk. Seriously. We'd like to speak to you.
Seriously. Right. So you mentioned the metaverse earlier. And I know you guys recently announced, what was it? World of Moguls?
Yep.
Yes. So,
Enter the world of moguls.
yeah. So let's talk a bit about that.
For sure. So we'd had so many different conversations with different layer ones, etc. And I mean, by the way, what's been so fantastic is having certain kinds of relationships come to fruition from these conversations. Shout out to the Avalanche Foundation. They actually became a strategic investor in our incubation lab because they really saw what we were doing and knew that the vision was something that could be crystallized with the support of a robust community that they have. And they've been amazing thus far, amazing. But while speaking to some of their peers in the space and other layer ones, etc., what we've identified is that there was this hindrance, this barrier that was preventing mass adoption of Web3 and the metaverse. And what we discovered after having several conversations was that a lot of people who were not native gamers or native to the blockchain space didn't quite see that connectivity in order to make that transition head on into Web3 and the metaverse. When you think about other metaverse concepts, a lot of them are leveraging 8-bit, 16-bit graphics, two-dimensional graphics, etc. Resolution isn't that high. And that's a bit off-putting. And the process that a lot of people went through in order to become fully immersed in these metaverses could be, I guess, seen as clunky to some extent or cumbersome. So we found that photorealism is actually the approach that would assist with establishing that connectivity so that people aren't looking at the metaverse as simply just a game or a thing, but more so an extension of their day-to-day lives. So we went to town, identified some amazing developers, some of the best in the world who are known for building virtual worlds, etc. Actually, our head of design is an architect by trade.
And from London.
Wow.
Yep, and from London. Shout out to the UK. And after going to town and building this team, we started building, and I mean, the metaverse really just took a turn, and it's something that we're super proud of because it's changing the way that we interact socially. Right? When you think about the COVID-19 pandemic and you think about some of the biggest problems that we faced as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, it was, pretty tough because there were certain restrictions placed upon us that wouldn't allow us to congregate or come together with a robust amount of people, right? So it had to change the way that we interacted in the workplace, change the way that we interacted in the traditional school setting, and also change the way that we consumed content and entertainment at scale. So our metaverse product is our solution that we're bringing to the table to address the future of work, the future of learning, and also the future of entertainment, again, at scale. So hypothetically speaking, I'm from New York, right? And the thing in New York is you're supposed to see Billy Joel at Madison Square Garden. That's the thing, right? Back in the day, you could do something like that without hesitating. But these days, you might think once or twice about being in a crowd full of 20,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, the metaverse, as it pertains to the future of entertainment, is affording an opportunity for us to be able to consume content from the comfort of our homes in a very engaging and interactive way at scale, where we don't have to be limited to just 20,000 people, but creating unique, one-of-a-kind experiences with as many people as possible. And so that's the approach that we've taken from a high level. We have a lot of exciting things coming up. Actually, we'll be delivering a keynote at the avaxsummit, the inaugural summit in Barcelona. So with that, we're actually going to be making a very, very, very exciting announcement. Okay. The keynote is called Web3 and the Future. Be there or be square. But yes, those are some of our aspirations and goals with the metaverse. Sherrard, I know I might have breezed over a few things. If there's
I think you pretty much summed it up. I think another thing, just going to the DEI, not to spend too much longer on this, but on the DEI element and us establishing this network of more developers, they're going to be integral, a part of this metaverse creation. When we talk about Web 2 and how the publishers were getting all this money and the users of the game weren't really getting anything, I think that's what we're seeing, the new transition. We want more creators to create video games, power the ecosystem. So we're not coming at this from a centralized aspect. We want the community to help us build this vision. So help us along the journey.
And it's pretty interesting too, because I think a key component to diversity, equity, and inclusion that gets lost is that people need to understand DEI is not relegated simply to just people of color who are deemed the minorities. DEI means everyone. The essence of diversity means whether you're of a different race, a different color, a different creed, gender, sex, etc. It does not matter. You should be afforded opportunities. Now let's think about this on, I guess, a micro level from a business perspective, exactly what that means. And what that means is, when you think about, again, to Sherrard's point, with Web 2, there was this centralized, I guess, approach being taken where a small amount of people made most of the money. Mm-hmm. Let's think about that again. A small amount of people made the majority of the money. With the democratization of tech, right, through decentralization and Web3, now people who are the creators, again, are being given the opportunity to own their data, monetize their likeness, generate aggressive sums of money, and own their destiny. And that is, in essence, really a huge component of diversity, equity, and inclusion beyond what typically meets the eye or what people may think of when they start to think of DEI.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Yeah. So, right. I know you said you had a lot of other projects that you were working on. Any that you can tell me about now? Or do we have to wait for the keynote?
Might gotta wait.
So I think we're going to wait for the keynote. But all I'll say is there's a very strong ecosystem and community that's been built and showing us a ton of love and a ton of support. And we're certainly eager to continue building these relationships in that community.
And there's a ton of influencers within our network that want to get exposed to the space. And it's only right for us to continue to innovate and make sure that they have the necessary resources to do so.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you. So we're sitting here in Barcelona for the Avalanche Summit. So can you tell us a bit about what you guys have done with Avalanche?
For sure. Sherrard, do you want to kick off?
Yeah, we've been fortunate to receive investment from them on our incubation lab. They're definitely some amazing people in the space. They're doing a ton of things for developers, building a ton of products that developers need in the space. So with the ecosystem that we're establishing over here, a lot of them are huge fans of what Avalanche have built, and they're utilizing their technologies and different things like that. And just from the infrastructure, the people over there, just an amazing team. The fact that they have academic researchers building these products out. In addition to that, it's been amazing. A lot that we can learn from their organization as well. But I don't know, Aaron, if you want to explain.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that was well put. Something that is super important to us is being able to position Web3 and everything Web3 has to offer, so that individuals who would typically be a bit intimidated by Web3 and blockchain are now being more open-minded and are now looking toward just expanding their knowledge base as it pertains to how to leverage Web3 in the right way. And the only way to do that is by way of mass adoption. Now, one of the key things that we always talk about when it comes to mass adoption is bandwidth and scalability and the infrastructure to scale without running into too many problems. And that's something that we felt that Avalanche brought to the table for sure, hence the reason why we wanted to strategically align with them, right? So when you want to be able to drive that mass adoption and partner with a layer one to be able to do so, it's quite obvious that Avalanche is the way to go.
Agreed.
Absolutely. Thank you.
This is not investment advice.
Yeah. Okay. So what is the future of EonXI?
Ah, man. So, I mean, the one thing that I will say, and the grand vision, is that our incubation lab over the course of the next 5 years will have over 1,000 developers in our ecosystem. Again, over the next 5 years, over 1,000 developers. And the goal, just to reiterate once again, is to have developers from all walks of life, have a truly diverse ecosystem of individuals
who are all over the world, who are coming together to co-create and build these disruptive concepts that are solving some of the biggest problems that we're facing as a society.
And the reason why it's so important to have people from different walks of life is because everyone brings a different thought process to the table. And everyone, regardless of where you're located or what your background is, has different insight regarding some of the problems that we're facing. So cultural connectivity is going to assist us with taking things to the next level and being able to bring true value
to Web3 and what it's doing to solve problems.
Agreed. And just to expand on that point as well, the future, as we mentioned early on, even with the LPs and influencers being a part of that LP network, it's important for us to educate them on the journey. So as Aaron mentioned, this 1,000 developer ecosystem, we also want to have a robust influencer network where we're exposing them into these type of emerging opportunities where they're learning as LPs so that they could further educate people that come down the line with them. So it's more of a dual approach of how we plan to take it for the next 5 years.
Absolutely. It's exciting to see what you guys come up with.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And obviously, as we continue to grow and do some of these exciting things, we'd love to come back anytime and talk about it.
Oh, please. I would love that. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much for watching this episode. And if you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. So thank you so much both for your times.
Oh, thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sunlight.
Thank you. So we'll see you next time. Bye.
See you next time.